Good afternoon, Mr. Cassingay. We hope you enjoyed your trip to New York. Sorry the Yankees lost the Sox yet again. But we've been here compiling our audit memo for the planning stages of the Sonic Corp audit. We're looking forward to sharing our findings with you. We went ahead and sent you the audit memo and a document. Feel free to take a look at that. We're really going to expound upon some of the specifics that we laid out in the menu, and just we want to kind of summarize that and report to you our findings as we get started to do the audit for this year. Just to start out, obviously we're auditing Sonic Corp. It's the largest drive-in in America, but overall it competes in not only the fast food industry, but it's pretty universal. It competes with things like Pizza Hut as well as just your McDonald's, your Chick-fil-A, your Taco Bells. So it's got a very large industry it competes in. There's about 3,500 Sonic locations across America in 44 locations. A big thing to note is 89% of those locations are franchises. So Sonic does not operate those locations. Those are independent franchises. To give you a little bit of the scope of the size of Sonic, they did $600 million in sales last year. Right now their market cap's hovering about $1.7 billion. So a really good sized company. Their CEO is also their board of he's the chairman of the board of directors, and he's also the president. His name's Cliff Hudson. He's been there since 1985, actually. So he's got a rich tradition with the company. Obviously, he knows the ins and outs of everything that's gone on since he's been there for 30 plus years. Just a little history. Sonic went public in 1991. It trades on the NASDAQ right now. Its business model is pretty simple. They have each Sonic. It has one building that hovers around 1,500 square feet. It operates to the kitchen. Each Sonic has about 16 to 24 parking spaces where people pull in, they order their food, Sonic makes it, ships it out, sends it out, and that's a very simple business model. Sonic's been on a pretty steady growth path. In 2015, their net income was double that of which it was 2013, so they've been growing steadily. They opened a lot of new stores this year, so they've been able to hit a lot of the analysts' forecasts, which has taken a lot of pressure off of management. Jumping into it, we want to just touch on some of the overall entity-level risks. And right now, it's one of the biggest risks for anyone in the restaurant industry is food-related illness. Just ask Chipotle. So we feel like the biggest entity-level risk for Sonic is a food-related illness, and with social media and news coverage this day, any news of that, and that's really going to negatively hurt Sonic's sales. Going along with that, government regulation. Each Sonic location is subject to a lot of inspection, so if a store doesn't meet the regulations, obviously they're going to pay a fine, but the negative PR is going to spread, and sales again and just the overall success of the business will be negatively affected. We also feel a huge risk for Sonic is the fact that 89% of the locations are operated by franchises. This is a risk because Sonic Corp doesn't have direct control over these franchises, but those franchises have a direct impact on our image. So if they mess up regulation, if they mess up a food thing, if they mess up anything, it reflects negatively upon us because their name's associated with us. But Sonic doesn't have control over. So that's a huge risk. And 39% of Sonic's revenue actually comes from these franchises. So they play a huge part in the revenue as well. So that's a big inherent risk. Like I said, Sonic is in the fast food industry. It's a really, really competitive industry. So there's always the risk that someone comes in and Sonic is kind of a high-priced player in the fast food market. So Sonic's subject to competitors undercutting their prices and stealing market share. Consumers in the fast food industry are very sensitive to changes in the economy. So, and a big risk for Sonic is the economy having a negative downturn that's going to negatively affect consumer spending patterns towards Sonic. So sales would obviously be hurt and impacted by a decline in the market. So that's a risk. Another risk is the real estate market for all 387 locations that are owned and operated by Sonic Corp. They own or lease all the land that those locations are on. So a decline in the real estate market is going to diminish asset value, but it's also going to increase the cost of operation. So that's a business level risk for us. Another one is data breach. It's really prevalent these days. Just ask Home Depot or Target. Sonic being hit with a data breach is going to affect obviously sales and just public perception of Sonic. Um, a huge trend that we're seeing too in the fast food industry, and Sonic's kind of been caught flat-footed on, is providing health conscious options. Sonic has a very diversified menu, but they're coming under criticism by the franchise owners to Sonic Corp, saying, "Hey, we need more healthy options. People are not coming to Sonic because there's no salad option, there's no healthy option." So a risk that Sonic faces is losing some of their market share because they don't have these healthy options. And lastly, Sonic, I mentioned in the overview, they've been very good about hitting their growth plan. But if anything happens to the implementation of that plan, if they don't open as many stores as they want, if revenue doesn't grow, that's going to be an entity level risk because their stock price is going to take a hit. But we feel that encapsulates a lot of the large forces and industry forces that contributes to the risk, the inherent risk that Sonic faces. If we would we'd set that at about medium, just because of the franchises that we're ultimately trusting, and the food-related stuff is shown to be a huge player. So we're comfortable setting that risk around medium. So I'm going to turn it over to Patrick.
Mr. Cassingay, Patrick Whalen. I'm the senior on the audit, doing the planning. Again, so condolences to your Yankees. Sorry about the sweep. Had your numbers since '04, so it's a good time to be a Red Sox fan. Just to give you a rundown, my responsibilities on the planning portion was to set materiality first and foremost, to then use that to kind of identify some significant accounts that we want to take a closer look at, maybe do some more testing on when it comes around to actually performing the audit, and then look at some material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, if we can find some of those, and the control risks involved with that, and then take a look at management, if there's some pressure on management to inflate or deflate the earnings. So jumping right in, one thing I wanted to note about what Winston was talking about the competition is that I found it really interesting when you look at the proxy statement, the DEF 14A, who they list as their peer groups. It's not only the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and the Wendy's, it's also the Domino's, the Pizza Huts, the Denny's. So this is a unique fast food restaurant where they kind of see competitions from all angles. So I just think that's something that we need to note. Income before taxes was about $91.7 million. We felt comfortable using income before taxes to set on materiality, taking just straight 5% of that. We were set on materiality at $4.6 million, roughly. That's overall materiality. We felt confident in this because it was a solid account that really saw it was stable, it was predictable, and it was pretty representative of the size and complexity of Sonic Corporation. I did a flex analysis, just comparing the account balances from the end of August 31st, 2014 to August 31st, 2015, to kind of try to find some accounts that we need to take a closer look at. I had four that really stuck out to me. That was, first one, total revenues jumped up pretty high. The assertions on that we need to take a look at. Again, this is in the memo that's in front of you. Occurrence, accuracy, and cutoff. Revenues was kind of, I'll touch on this later, but kind of open to estimate from management's perspective for some future earnings that they could take in the current year. So cutoff's really important there. Make sure they're doing that correctly. Make sure that these revenues actually occurred and that they're accurate balances. Provision for impairment of long-lived assets. This is almost entirely an estimate account from the accounting portion of Sonic Corporation. So that's really just a red flag right there. That's open to estimate. We got to make sure that they're following GAAP on the estimates, that they're not taking too much or too little of expense there for whatever reason they might find beneficial to them. But these long-term assets that they're writing off, obviously something that we need to take a close look at, maybe test more, and maybe do different timing of these testing more closer to the end of our audit. Stockholders' equity went down a good bit just due to the sale of capital stock during the year. It was offset a little bit by the earnings. They paid out a good share of dividends. So you saw a pretty big drop in stockholders' equity. You just want to make sure that that's complete, value correctly allocated to the right places. And then working capital actually ended up being negative at the end of 2015. Obviously, current liabilities were more than current assets there. That dropped almost $18 million. So we just want to make sure that that's really exists and it's complete, and we're not overlooking anything there. So just take a look at your current assets and current liabilities to make sure working capital is at the right level there. Looking at the control risks, we want to set them. We're going to set them low. I feel very comfortable with that. Just looking through to find significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. We couldn't find any right off the bat. None that were listed by management. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but just our initial run through in the planning didn't find anything that really stuck out to me to note as a control risk. We obviously audited Sonic Corporation last year. Unqualified opinion. I feel comfortable saying the control risk is low. I think we can rely on them a good bit. And then, obviously, revenues and impairment accounts, again, like I said earlier, are open to estimate. We just got to make sure that those are being estimated correctly within GAAP, that nothing fishy is going on there. The procedures for how to do these estimates are in the 10K. So they're listed, so we can take a look at that. So it's pretty available to us, which is nice. It seems to be pretty transparent. And then lastly, I just looked at the pressure on management. First run through, seems like there's not that much pressure on management. Like Winston touched on, a good chunk of I think it's 89%, are these franchisees that they really have no control over. So obviously that's a big risk, but it kind of takes the pressure off management. It's kind of a hands-off approach. But if you dig a little deeper, the analyst forecasts that were given by independent forecasters seem favorable for Sonic Corp stock, and they seem to predict that they're going to meet some higher earnings moving forward. So that does put some pressure on management to actually live up to those expectations for their stockholders, as well as if you take a look in the 10K and the DEF 14A, there is a bit of management compensation tied to these earnings. There's incentives for meeting certain caps on these on their earnings. So there is some influence on management to maybe incentives to maybe inflate or deflate earnings depending on what they want to hit, and maybe deflate this year to inflate next year. Things like that. So we just need to be really aware of that as we go through. But all in all, I'd say like a moderate pressure on management. And so we'll go ahead and hand off to Grant.
Professor Cassingay, thank you for your time. I'm Grant Altschuler. My role in the audit was to locate detection risk and identify any changes in the audit that took place this year in comparison to last year, as well as identify any auditing or accounting or auditing issues that could affect Sonic Corporation. First, after analyzing the 10K and 10Q, I noticed that selling, general, and administrative expenses increased significantly during the first 6 months of this year in comparison to last year. And that's just as a result of additional headcount in support of the company's technology initiatives and higher variable compensation due to strong operating performance. Next, operating expenses rose the first part of this year in comparison to last year as well. And that's just due to Sonic's new brand technology fund that they're implementing, that is being implemented March 1st, 2016, and will be set at a fee of 0.25% for the calendar year. In addition, total assets decreased during the first 6 months of the year as a result of depreciation and asset retirement by purchase of property, plant, and equipment. There was also a $3.2 million decrease in royalty receivables just due to the seasonality of business. Sonic, due to company structure, it tends to experience higher sales growth rates during the warmer periods of the year just due to its outdoor experience and what it has to offer that's unique in comparison to other competitors that they're going against in the selling of similar products. Total stockholders' equity happened to decrease during the first part of the year, just as a result of purchase of common stock as well as issuance of dividends that amounted to $10.9 million. But net cash provided by operating activities also decreased as well, just due to a payout of increased incentive compensation to employees. And net cash due to financing activities decreased as well, due to stock option exercises as well. In August of 2015, I noticed that the board of directors extended the company's share repurchase program, authorizing the purchase of up to 145 million of outstanding shares of common stock. And then, as a result of analyzing the accounting and auditing issues that could affect Sonic Corporation, first and foremost, just a need to collect information in a timely and efficient manner, and just to go about always exploring various options to always improve your efficiency as a company in terms of reporting and just being as efficient as possible and reducing lag time of getting things reported. Next, companies such as Sonic Corporation sometimes use either automated or technology-based systems to report line items. Sometimes, unfortunately, certain things happen over the course of an audit or a reporting, and potentially could lead to information falling through the cracks and not necessarily being reported accurately during the course of the year. And finally, a lot of Sonic's competitors offer lower priced items in relation to Sonic's own products. So it's just important for Sonic to keep a low sales expense account in comparison to the revenue they're generating over the course of the year.
Thanks, Grant. Just to sum up kind of our findings, we feel like Sonic's a very stable company. We're confident in what they do. So there's going to be no going concern risk for them. We feel comfortable setting the inherent risk at about medium. Again, it's the franchises that we're worried about, and also it's kind of a turbulent economic times that could have a huge impact, as well as the food. So we're going to set inherent risk about medium. We do feel comfortable and confident in the controls. We want to set that pretty low, and obviously we'll go from there to determine our detection risk. But we look forward to a smooth audit for this 2016 year, and we're excited to continue the company's work on Sonic Corp.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you for your time.